Anyways, I saw your fucking tag on your name today. I was like, Mommy, sweetie, bring Mommy her bazooka.
Still an excellent line.
Well, I just recently went
What?
through and I watched all of the Batman stuff that I could get a hold of on HBO.
Nice.
So I was like, yeah, fucking Batman animated series. Brave and the
I
Bold.
haven't made. Yeah, I haven't made it through all of it yet. Although I usually just buy whatever DVDs are at like Walmart or Target and then take them home and put them on my behemoth of a TV. I can send you a Snapchat of it.
You're like, I'm gonna go get a picture on my TV. Hold on.
It's fucking beautiful. It's so old.
Is your hair black right now? Did you dye your hair black or is it really dark brown?
It's a really dark brown, but it's like a shade darker than my natural.
I need you to
It's meant
come
to
out and do
look
my
black,
hair.
but
Please help me.
right now.
Right now, just fucking teleport here, Sarah. Look how, like,
Oh
discolored
my god,
my
well,
ends are.
it's long.
Oh, it's long, yeah, but it's like. I look like I have a
You need
balayage, like an unintentional balayage going.
beautiful. So I recommend a blonde toner.
A blonde toner. Yeah, I'll just start using purple shampoo. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, or you put orange in before whatever color you want.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
That's the secret.
That's a
That is the
secret.
secret is to fill it in before you color it.
Well, I mean, it's already kind of like orange, but it's that porosity down at the ends. So it's just not
Yeah,
holding anything.
that's hard. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I had to use gray coverage color for my ends because I absolutely fried the shit out of my hair. Like from my chin down, it is so cooked.
It is so cooked, but you're like, I like the
But
length, so it stays right here.
yeah, I'll just slowly cut it off now. It's not as bad as it was. I used to have to like cut it to my shoulders, but I kind of miss it. My shoulder, my little French bob with bangs.
uh, all right. Well, we should transition. And yeah,
Podcast time.
podcast time. Time for some true crime. So, while we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds or cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you to please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The case that we'll be discussing today may be disturbing to some audiences, and listener discretion is advised. As far as trigger warnings go, I don't think I have sexual assault. We might have some domestic violence. It's been a while since I've gone through these notes, so it's going to be a fucking roller coaster anyway.
Yay!
But I will preemptively warn you that this is very disturbing in a sense of like gag reflex. So, just a heads
Second
up.
beer.
Second beer. Sarah's like, yeah.
Second beer.
My mom gave you the better you than me and told me to tell you hi at the same time, Sarah.
Better you than me. Jesus.
Because she did this one the first time I covered it. So it's a repeat episode from our
Okay.
previous podcast. But better you than me, she says. Yeah, no, this is definitely
Okay.
one of those out there.
I'm only a little bit queasy, so it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. You'll be fine. At least you're not in
Yeah.
the woods today. This is gonna be like Sarah's first non-national parks case ever.
Yay.
Aren't you excited?
Kind of.
Sort of. Not really.
Yeah. Hasn't kept me out of the woods, so.
I have a hashtag started for that on Twitter of keep Sarah out of the woods.
Keep Sarah out of the woods. I think other people have more to be worried about with me in the woods.
You hiding something? You want to tell us something?
No. I just make rock stacks and they don't like it. They're like, don't make those on the trail. And then last time I went out, I took a friend and I brought, what was it? I found a bunch of tequila sodas in the back of my car. I was like, oh, do you want one? So we were just blasted. And then there was a lake, so I got in it.
You're like, yeah, swimming.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was like, hey, look, there's water and you can see in it. And I just kind of got in. It's a
Just
great way to
fully
live.
clothed, just went treaded into the water.
Oh, but yeah.
Were you?
No, I wasn't naked.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, I would kind of be like, where'd Sarah go? Oh my God.
I've done it once before.
Once.
Maybe never again.
Maybe never again.
Never again.
Never again. Oh my goodness. So, John George Haigh was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire, I think, is how that's pronounced. I'm terribly sorry. There's going to be mispronunciations because we're in England and I don't know how to pronounce any of this. I'm sorry.
It's all Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. So,
Worcestershire.
John George Haigh was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire on July 24th of 1989. And already he was in a tumultuous position. His father, also named John, had lost his job at the electrical plant just a few months before his son was born. The financial instability caused the family to relocate to the West Yorkshire in England. A small community which made Haigh feel very isolated as a boy, to which these feelings were even further increased by his upbringing. Haigh was the only child and quickly gained the reputation as a rather lonely child by those who knew him. His mother had already, in her mind, stated that he was basically her miracle baby because she was in her 40s when she had Haigh. So, as such, she treated him as a miracle child. And although he wasn't spoiled, he was very much cloistered, which means that he was kept close and like very sheltered throughout his upbringing. And he was raised in a highly religious atmosphere.
Perfect.
Both of his parents were part of a strict religious group called the Plymouth Brethren. Now, from what I can find online regarding the Plymouth Brethren, they're typically like have a bad media representation for religious cult-like activities. However, an article that focused more on Haigh's upbringing, the Plymouth Brethren were a severe religious sect for whom all manners of casual entertainment, movies, carnivals, musical shows, and even reading of magazines or newspapers was considered sinful.
What?
Noting that children should be isolated from corrupting influences.
You can't look at this poster of Britney Spears. I am so sorry.
How dare you look at her? She's not even alive yet. It's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
This would be like more Marilyn Monroe times, I think.
You can't look at Marilyn. We can't taint your eyeballs.
How dare you look at this beautiful woman?
It's illegal. Very illegal.
Haigh was confined to living within the borders of his home. In fact, his father put up a tall fence around the yard to lock out the outside world from Haigh. Haigh noted that he always felt like he was observed by a higher and disapproving deity. When Haigh recounted his childhood later in life, he also stated how he was very bleak and lonely, making mention that his only friends were his few pets and caring for the neighbor's dog.
That sounds like it sucks. I mean, like, I love animals, but like being a little kid and not socializing
Oh yeah, and
with
like
other
having absolutely
children.
nobody to socialize with whatsoever. Like that is such a pinnacle time to like gain your social skills and be able to like
Yeah.
make lifetime long friends that it's really hard to be like, okay, you don't get any of that. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, seriously, I feel like most friendships start when people are younger. Like, you try when you're an adult, but still, it's just kind of weird. You're like, all right,
Yeah, I have social
I guess we'll go
anxiety
do this
now.
thing. Yeah. Oh,
So anyone that
that.
like
Oh.
has interacted with me that now listens to the podcast, I am terribly sorry. I am socially awkward without a doubt. So, along with the harsh rules the family followed from the Plymouth Brethren's strict following of the Bible, John Sr. demanded obedience, and he got just that from instilling the fear of God into his child. John Sr. would regularly point out a discolored scar on his forehead, telling Haigh that he'd been marked by the devil for sinning in his youth, and he made Haigh promise not to walk the same path. threatening the devil would also permanently disfigure him if he should step too far out of line. Which, I mean, if you're being brought up in a religious sect and like you
Oh,
obviously are scared of everything that they're telling you, and then your dad's like, yeah, the devil did this to me. And mind you, it was like a little mark on his forehead, just this little blue mark from like some type of accident that had happened when he was younger, and it just didn't heal right. It's like, yeah, okay, I believe you,
that's ter-
Dad. I'm sorry. I won't be
he's
bad.
probably terrified. Like, there's a scary man who will burn you for eternity, and he has marked you.
He's marked me
He
for
has marked
sinning.
you.
However, John Sr. did much more than just threaten divine wrath upon his son's actions. He actually forbade him from doing anything that Haigh enjoyed too much, noting that it is a sin to be happy in this world. His parents focused more on feeding his eternal soul rather than preparing him for an actual earthly life. He spent hours at church each week, and any other part of his time was closely monitored by his parents. In 1916, Haigh was enrolled into a strict elementary school. From there, he was moved to a prestigious middle school, and Haigh was a bright child, and despite being cut off from the outside world, he developed a great proficiency at the piano, and he actually received a scholarship to attend the Queen Elizabeth Grammar School in Wakefield, as well as another scholarship as a choir boy at the Wakefield Cathedral.
I mean, he had a lot of time to practice.
Yeah. I mean, if you're by yourself for so long, like, and you find things that, like, you enjoy, but not too much because it's a sin, like, I imagine that you get good at it.
Or it's like they just make him practice. They're like, we know you're crying, son, but you have to keep singing.
You have to keep singing. We know that your throat hurts and that you're probably blowing your vocal cords out, but keep singing. Sing my
You gotta
angel
keep
in
going,
music.
kid.
So, Haigh was expected to excel everywhere he went with his studies. However, with this overbearing atmosphere, he started to act out in school. He started lying to his parents at an early age as they had incredibly high standards for him to meet, and the only way that Haigh could get some peace was to hide his true feelings. Realizing that he would receive no such blemish from the devil for his behaviors, he started to go a little more off the rails and pursue stranger behaviors. Haigh claimed that he had actually started drinking his own urine in 1920, the same year that he started private school.
Heard it's good for you. No, I'm kidding.
I'm like, it's not. Please don't. Don't listen
No,
to
no,
Sarah.
no,
It's
no,
not
no,
good for
no.
you.
Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're about to die.
I'm sorry.
We're back in the woods.
We're back in the woods. Oh no. Haig also began to have regular nightmares regarding religion where trees would turn into crucifixes and weep blood. In other dreams, he'd be walking in a field full of crucifixes, and then they'd form into tall trees, and it would begin to rain. As he wandered through the forest, he would begin to realize that it wasn't actually raining water, but it was raining blood instead. He tried to scream out, but he'd have no voice, and he was simply rooted in place. A man would eventually come from the woods with a cup filled with blood and urge Haig to drink it.
I guess that's what happens when you're raised on revelations
Yes.
and
And
only revelations.
that's what I have here. I'm like, maybe he was like getting
Oh
this
my
of like the
god.
blood of Christ and the concepts of like love, like taking the blood of Christ for love or something like that. I'm like, okay, this is wow. All right, we're just off to a
H
bad start.
HP Lovecraft, man.
Mm-hmm. However, this didn't stop
Oh,
him from becoming more manipulative and a compulsive liar as he grew up, prone to saying anything that would get himself out of a compromising position. Haig also became very good at learning to keep his nightmares and his innermost thoughts to himself. His teachers started to describe Haig as a mischievous young teenager, in his teenage years, of course, and lying about his life became a necessity at home. During this time, Haig started to believe that he was invincible and could get away with anything or fool just about anyone. Haig also began to notice that his family cared more for appearances than morality, and with that, he shaped himself into that image. taking care to look his best and make up in hygiene for what he lacked in ethics and morals. Noting that as long as people saw him as a clean-cut church boy, people would treat him as such.
God, that's one lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, poor guy.
His parents loved seeing Haigh sing in the church choir and were even more pleased when their neighbors saw him as a God-fearing young man, even though most of it was just an act Haigh put on. In 1926, Haigh graduated from school at the age of 17 years old and began training to become a mechanic. Unfortunately, though, he hated it. He was apprenticed to a firm for motor engineers. However, after a year, he ultimately left that job, not wanting to put in the physical labor of what that job took. And he switched over into insurance sales instead.
You know, that might be a better fit for someone who's a manipulative sociopath at this point.
Yeah, it might be.
he's he's become a wolf and he's put on the sheepskin. That's kind
Yes.
of what I'm seeing from this.
Oh, exactly. So, Haig's appearance and fast talking made him a natural, and he excelled in the company very quickly. In fact, he excelled so much that he quickly made his way into a broker position for the company.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is a good spot to be in, especially for like that day and age. However, Haigh, who enjoyed the financial benefits of the job, didn't want to put in the work and physical work still needed, making his decision very easy to make at this point. He'd hold the appearance of a busy man while stealing money from the company.
Ooh.
So Haigh begins to steal from the cash box. He takes a little at first, then he grows more comfortable with this and he takes more. Soon enough, though, his boss starts to take notice that there's money missing. And while Haigh isn't reckless enough to be caught red handed, he is fired at the age of 21 after being suspected of stealing from the cash box. No charges were placed as John Sr. paid the toll. When asked how much was owed, he stated, "I cannot recall the amount involved, but it was substantial."
Well, goddamn.
Well, goddamn.
Well, goddamn. It must have been like $500 back in the day.
Which is more like what, like
Like
25,000
2000.
today?
Yeah, yeah. Oof. Yield cash box.
So Haigh decided to strike out on his own and he founded an advertising company. However, he was incapable of funding himself and this company, so he stayed with his parents like for the time being and attended regular church services again. Haigh also noted himself as being in high demand with the ladies, but only one caught his eye. 21-year-old Beatrice, or Betty Hammer.
I like her name.
I like her name too. Hammer and Haigh started dating for several months, and even though Beatrice was charmed by his manners, she was still uncertain about his character. Regardless, though, the two married on July 6th of 1934. So there's two different accounts here as where they decided to live. If they decided to move into their own home, or if Haigh's parents allowed the new couple to live with them. Moreover, Haigh's parents hoped that they would continue the traditions and lifestyles that they live, going to church and raising a religious family. However, upon moving out or gaining independence away from his family, Haigh stopped going to church altogether, to which they viewed this as their son choosing hell over eternal salvation. Haigh, now having a new wife and the prospect of a family, became more desperate than ever before. He needed money and he was ready to do anything to get it. While looking for a quick money-making venture in the newspaper, Haigh stumbled across an article regarding a car thief and how he managed to con a dealership out of a fleet of vehicles. It gave him an idea himself. He'd comb through the phone book, selecting random names inside to forge documents. Then he approached a struggling dealership to purchase cars under those people's names. He'd make some small payments in the person's name to the dealership, so they believed that someone other than Haigh was actually like paying for these vehicles and owned them. And then Haigh would turn around and sell them for a huge profit. Hammer once noted when asked about if Haigh had money, she said, "He has, but I have no idea where he gets it from." In November of 1934, his crimes were discovered, and Hammer later recalled a policeman making a house call and taking Haigh with him. She later followed them to the Leeds police station, not knowing what the situation was about, just trying to find where her husband's at, like what's going on, and he's behind bars. When Hammer asks what this was all about, Haigh laughed and said, "Oh, it's nothing at all, darling. I've only broken the 11th commandment, which is, thou shalt not be found out."
Thou shalt not be found out. Jesus.
So Haigh wrote to his family while in prison, making promises to change once he was released, and while his parents were convinced, his wife of only a few months was not. So Hammer discovered early into Haigh's imprisonment that she was pregnant, and she decided that she was going to cut her losses. While Haigh was still in prison for fraud, Hammer gave birth to a baby girl whom she gave up for adoption, and then she filed for divorce.
Smart.
The two only briefly met once more, where Haigh lied to her, saying that they were never officially wed because he already had a wife at the time. To which I'm like, okay, Mr. Petty.
He's just being petty.
Like,
He's
Mr.
sad.
Petty. He's a sad boy.
It's-
It wasn't real because I was already married. Mm-hmm.
Someone else wanted me more than you.
Just, I'm not hurt.
I gotta go. I was already married. You're just a whore. He runs away like the Naruto run. His little 1930s suit.
And top hat, bowler cap. And bowler cap flies off, and he's just like, give him another one. I have money. Do you have money? So, well, when Haigh was released from prison in December of 1935, he had returned to his parents' home, where he resumed his role of the God-fearing son, attending church and life under his father's iron thumb. With his parents' and business partners' help, Haigh opened a dry cleaning business, which showed promising results for making money. However, most of the expenses being paid to maintain the building came from Haigh's partner. Unfortunately, not too long into the venture, this partner was struck by a vehicle and died, leaving Haigh with little other choice than to close the shop.
He was an insurance agent.
Yeah.
And he didn't get them policies.
He didn't get them
As
policies.
business partners. It's smart if you go into business with someone. If like if I opened a salon with someone, like if I opened a salon with you, and we got like insurance
I'm not
policies on each other,
licensed.
it would.
What am I
well, you
doing?
can still own one, but like if I got hit by a car, then my insurance policy would buy the business for you, and that's why you can do that.
Okay, fair enough. But Sarah, if you get hit by a car, we don't have anyone cutting hair anymore. It's gonna have to fucking close anyway.
But now you have the money and you can sell it. You're not in debt.
Oh my god.
It works out, but he's stupid. I think he's just stupid.
So, scorned by this loss of a profitable business, Haigh moved to London. Now, despite the abilities that Haigh had shown in his younger years, he spent a considerable amount of time in and out of prison for fraudulent policies and practices involving various illegal enterprises. So he's still committing fraud and doing shit like that over in London.
Good for him.
So during a brief period of time, he worked at an amusement park as a secretary or chaffer. I'm not really sure how that's pronounced. I'm terribly sorry. Run by one Mr. William MacDonald McSwan and his parents, Donald McSwan and Amy McSwan. The McSwan family liked Haigh and promoted him within the ranks of the business, as well as making friends with William. This friendship was short-lived when Haigh decided to seek employment elsewhere, and they were ultimately very sorry to see him leave. Haig's next project involved setting up false solicitors' offices with the same name as reputable firms in the area. He then pretended to have an estate to liquidate and some public company shares to dispose of. The checks poured in, and Haigh cashed them out without providing any of the goods. He would then move on to duplicate the scheme in another area. This earned him 4 years in prison. Within a year of getting
Yay!
within a year of getting out, he was back at it again. And according to Parcast serial killers, he used a tactic that's still actually used today, the selling of goods to elderly people and making the matter seem urgent and time sensitive so that they'll act quickly without a chance to think it over or talk it through. He was arrested and once again incarcerated for his crimes, but I don't have an exact time or length this one was for the sentence. While he was incarcerated this time, though, he came up with a new way to get rich quickly and reflected that every time he committed a crime, someone was always running for the police, meaning his options were turning to disposing of people that he'd conned. He also began to convince himself that if there were no corpse, there would be no conviction. A belief that he'd most likely started to work up while working with sulfuric acid in the prison's
Oh,
tin
okay.
shop.
I was a
Where,
little worried he's gonna start eating people.
no, we have other serial killers that do that, but we're not
Uh,
talking about Jeffrey Dahmer quite yet.
okay.
So, this is a belief that he'd come up with while working with sulfuric acid in the prison's tin shop, where he began experimenting on field mice. He paid the other prisoners to fetch the mice from the yard. He'd then dangle the still living mice above jars of highly concentrated sulfuric acid and made observations of the effects the acid had on the organic tissue. Now, it's chemistry time. Woo! Hi, this is Katie from the future. I got way too excited about chemistry time and I stumbled over this horribly, so I'm going to explain it in a little bit more understanding principles right here. So, first off, I don't know why this website had a DIY disposal, but according to Chemistry World, when it comes to soft tissues, select acids and bases, typically hydrosulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, sodium hydroxide, and potassium hydroxide, wreak destruction via hydrolysis. So, hydrolysis is the cleavage of biomolecules where the water molecule is consumed to effect the separation of a larger molecule into component parts. On large biomolecular like proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids, this is basically breaking those apart and breaking it down. So, it breaks it down into smaller units.
He likes to eat us.
Yes. But that's in highly
Oh,
concentrated doses. If you get some chloric acid on your skin in the lab or hydrosulfuric acid, honest to God, yeah, go run for the shower. But it's not gonna be that bad. You're gonna be fine. Know where your lab
needs
safety equipment
fingerprints.
is. You're can get rid of these now. No, I wouldn't suggest
Mhm.
doing it that way.
Well, oh my gosh, it's like hairdressers that don't use gloves.
Oh,
Given I don't work with chemicals, but some people just won't, and they'll bleach people's hair and then they lose their fingerprints.
ow,
Yeah.
ow.
What is it? Yeah, it's like the little oxidation reduction that happens while they're
Mm-hmm.
playing with the hair lightener that just eats away.
Ew. Ugh.
Genius.
Beautiful.
Who needs gloves?
So it is absolutely possible. Should you DIY this at home? Absolutely fucking not. Please don't do that.
You want to talk about being on a list?
You want to talk about being on a list? You go look for is it possible to dissolve a body in hydrosulfuric acid? And it gives you exactly how to do it in a DIY format. And I'm like, what the
Your
fuck?
IP address just starts pinging on a bunch of computers over at the Pentagon.
You're like, what the
It's
fuck
like,
is
all
this
right, we got
person doing?
one.
Maybe we should watch this one, make sure she's okay.
Add to list.
After Haigh was released from prison, he set out to put his devious plan into motion. He rented a basement space at 79 Gloucester Street and posed as a scientist to buy large amounts of hydrosulfuric acid from a chemical retailer. He kept this acid in large containers in the basement, and it wasn't long before he transferred his prison experiments into the real world. At a public house in Kensington, Haigh happened upon a familiar face, one William McSwan. He was happy to see Haigh and took him to see his parents. They informed Haigh that they recently had invested in property which provided a nice bit of income for them. Little did they know the plan Haigh was slowly developing in his brain when he heard this. So, William McSwan and Haigh began to spend more time together, and eventually William divulged to Haigh that he was fearful of being drafted into World War II and wanted to attempt to dodge the draft. Haigh offered his help and a place for him to hide, as well as his rented space on Gloucester Street. And I'm so sorry if I pronounce that differently every single time. Trusting his friend, William went with Haigh back to his place. Upon entering the dingy room, William was hit on the back of the head with a blunt instrument, possibly a metal pipe. Then, William's throat was slit.
Gross.
Yep. Haigh later wrote in his diary that I got a mug and took some of the blood from his neck and drank it. I'm like, okay, sir, what the hell?
Oh.
Haigh left the corpse there overnight. There's some speculation that he needed to calm his nerves after what he had just did, or possibly work up the courage to perform the next step. The following evening, Haigh returned to the room where he removed William's valuables and clothing, then placed the 40-gallon drum he'd found searching some old bomb sites of the war on its side. Haigh then proceeded to slide the body over to it, noting how much of an ordeal it was to get him inside since William was larger than the 5'8" Haigh. It took him roughly a half hour to do this, as he had to fold the body in half and fit it inside this drum. Pushing the legs as close to the torso as possible, he was finally able to fit William inside. Then he set the drum upright. Haigh donned an apron and gloves to go fill the bucket with acid, a method which proved awkward, but he eventually got the first bucket full to the drum. As he worked, the fumes accumulated as the acid worked its way into the body, and it overwhelmed Haigh. He didn't expect this to be an issue, and his workplace had very poor ventilation, and this caused Haigh to have to step outside and go get some air. It took hours before the corpse was fully submerged in the now bubbling liquid. This once cold acid became hot as the reaction with organic material took place. Haigh covered the drum, locked his office, and went home to collapse. While he slept, his former friend and drinking pal liquefied into sludge. Haigh returned to the basement 2 days later to check on the progress of his experiment. Looking into the drum, he was greeted with a black porridge-like substance smeared with red streaks, and it smelt horrendous. Using a wooden rod, Haigh stirred the mixture to see if McSwan had fully dissolved. However, the substance was more congealed than he expected, but was sufficiently more liquid to pour down a large manhole-sized drain in the basement. Which is exactly what he did, using a bucket to scoop the last of the liquid out until the drum was nearly empty.
That's gross.
A few lumps of something remained at the bottom of the drum, though, and Haigh had to dig them out forcibly with a stick and then basically stomp them down the drain. He then cleaned the drum. Now,
Nasty.
that was the first step in his task to complete what he was trying to get. And Haigh experienced a sense of near euphoria, as he believed no one could pin it on him for the fact that no one would ever find the body. It was now time to move into the second phase of his plan. Haigh then made contact with McSwan's parents. Now, it differentiates depending on the sources. Some say that he worked to perfect William's handwriting and send a note to the family, but other reports say that Haigh went personally to the McSwans. Regardless, though, Haigh told the McSwans that their son had gone away to avoid being drafted into the war. Since McSwan had already voiced his plans to go underground into hiding rather than serve in the military, it seemed credible to the McSwans that he had actually left. Additionally, they knew Haigh as a former trusted employee and William's friend. Haigh, during this time, also traveled to Scotland and sent fake forged postcards to the McSwans from their son, some of which told how Haigh would be taking control of William's financial ventures while he was away. According to Parcast's coverage on Haigh, at this point, Haigh had not only started to take control of these funds, but he had also made his way into a lawyer's office, posing as William McSwan to place himself in a position of power of attorney, which is basically like giving power over the parentals to make sure that like they're taken care of by a trusted individual in the family. And unfortunately, he was very successful in doing it.
Oh, God.
So during this time, Haigh, who had recently learned that the acid made it difficult to breathe, fashioned a tin mask to protect his face for future work. He also bought a stir pump to get the acid from the carboy container into the tub. Additionally, he had an acid bathtub specially made of steel. However, it's also noted that rather than a steel tub, he may have simply just upgraded to 2 oil drums.
Gross.
Haigh spent McSwan's cash and converted his assets into his own via forgery, and the McSwans welcomed him into their company multiple times. Haigh even started living at William's home and collecting rent for his parents. After a year had passed, Mr. and Mrs. McSwan became concerned as to why their son had not returned home, as the war was beginning to come to an end. On July 2nd of 1945, Haigh lured Mr. and Mrs. McSwan to his office, under the pretense that their son had come home from Scotland for a surprise visit. The couple disappeared that night. Haigh told anyone who asked about the McSwans that they'd gone away to America.
Okay, so now he was an old lady who swallowed a fly.
Then he swallowed the spider to get the fly, and then he swallowed the snake to get the spider. It's just growing. It's snowballing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's gonna find that there's no end to this. Like, these are affluent people.
Yes, very affluent people. Like, they're big names in the community. Like, oh yeah,
He's fucking stupid.
they're just in America now. That's fine.
They went to the Americas. Enjoy. Like, okay.
So he also rummaged through family files, so he was prepared to answer any questions regarding the McSwans, and had all their mail forwarded to him, including McSwan's pensions. Forging names on deeds, Haigh was able to dispose of their properties, selling some at more than £1,720 and accumulating altogether roughly £6,000, which is worth roughly £330,000 today.
All the money.
All the money. So the disappearances were never reported to police, and it was not even discovered to be a crime until Haigh's confession in 1949, where he apparently lured them in and attacked them one at a time in the same manner that he had a year earlier with their own son. However, to make the process easier, Haigh makes suggestive remarks to dismembering the bodies before putting them into the acid bath.
Suggestive.
Oh. Haigh moved into room 404 at the Onslaught Court Hotel in Kensington, a residential hotel that usually housed well-to-do older widows. He posed as a liaison between people and their patients, inventors, and engineering firms. He told people that his firm was part of a union engineering group with branches available in 4 towns. Haigh, who had considerable amounts of funds, tried to make even more money with a betting system that he devised. He believed that he could predict regular winners at dog track races. This quickly dissolved into a gambling addiction, and by 1947, Haigh was running short on money. To solve his financial issues, he decided that he would find another couple to kill and rob. This time,
Mm-hmm.
his victims were Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rosalie, both well to do middle aged retirees. In August of 1947, he advertised a house in Ladbroke Grove for sale. And Haigh, even though he had absolutely no money, began negotiating for the purchase of the property. Later explaining when he was unable to finalize that purchase, that one of his other business deals had fallen through, preventing him from buying the home. The Hendersons, however, struck up a friendship with Haigh, finding similar interests in music, to which he was invited to the Hendersons' flat to play the piano for their housewarming party. While there, Haigh stole Archibald's revolver, planning to use it in his next crime. He then rented a small workshop similar to the one on Gloucester Road at 2 Leopold Road and moved his setup to the new location. Now, it doesn't say how he afforded this space, but I'm presuming he maybe sold the other location. It's just a presumption. There's also statements saying that he ordered new equipment rather than taking like the old stuff. So do with that what you will. On February 12th of 1948, he drove Dr. Henderson to his workshop under the pretext of showing him an invention. When they arrived, Haigh shot Henderson in the head with the stolen revolver. He then proceeded to don his gas mask, something he'd also stolen while at the Hendersons' home, and dispose of the body by dumping it into a vat of sulfuric acid. He then returned to Miss Henderson and told her that her husband had fallen sick and needed her. Miss Henderson was initially irritated with the interruption in her life and did not want to go back to the storehouse, but reluctantly she accompanied Haigh to the workshop. Haigh then asked her to aid him in carrying some of her husband's things while they were seeing him out and to a friend's home. Begrudgingly, she entered the building where she was met with the same lethal fate as her husband. Haigh notes that he took a draught of blood from each of them and left them there overnight. Haigh then dumped the resulting sludge along with one undissolved foot in the corner of the trashy yard without bothering to take care of the obvious evidence. So there's just a foot in the backyard.
Perfect. At least he has that sulfuric acid pump now.
Mm-hmm.
What a luxury.
He then forged a letter with Henderson's signatures and made his way to the hotel, where he paid the bill and showed a letter of authority to the staff to remove Henderson's possessions and dog from their room. Haigh sold the items along with their car, but he kept the dog. He sold some of Miss Henderson's clothing to one Barbara Steffens and a hat and bag to one Miss Durand Deacon, both who he'd met in the hotel. For these transactions alone, he earned nearly £8,000. Haigh then wrote letters to people who knew the Hendersons, copying Miss Henderson's handwriting and forging her signature. Even on one account, writing a 15-page letter to her brother to satisfy him when he threatened to go to the police. Haigh explained to the man that the Hendersons had decided to immigrate to South Africa and urged him not to go to the police as Archie had performed an illegal abortion clinic and would get in trouble. Haigh managed to convince him and Miss Henderson's brother to accept this letter mailed from Glasgow as authentic. Haigh later claimed that motive for murder was to get their blood, but his actions as well as the state of his finances indicated otherwise. Going through the funds he had accumulated this time, by the end of the year, Haigh once again was in debt from gambling. when he noticed an obituary in the paper, the father of one of his schoolmates. He wrote a kind letter to the widow saying he'd come visit her. The widow thought this was sweet of him. However, she too passed before he could get there, which I'm like, oh, thank God.
She died a peaceful death.
Yes.
She wasn't vampired.
And burned in sulfuric acid. Just,
Tasty.
ugh. Haigh attempted to invite several other people to his factory, but he got no takers, and he was getting desperate. He owed money to the hotel, and he had borrowed just enough to pay it, but the loan he got had to be repaid in 5 days. That's when one Miss Duran Deacon approached him with an idea for inventing false fingernails, to which he invited her back to his place of business on February 18th of 1949. Once inside, he shot her in the back of the neck with Mr. Henderson's revolver and stripped her of her valuables, including a Persian lamb coat. He then proceeded to put her into the acid bath. However, this murder failed to cover the expenses that he had acquired in the last year, and he'd have to kill again, quickly. Just as this pressure begins to rise, Miss Henderson's brother starts poking around for more information and reaching out to Haigh again. Miss Henderson's brother was determined to go to Scotland Yard this time, and he wanted Haigh to accompany him. Haigh offered accommodations to Miss Henderson's brother for a while he was in London, planning to do away with the man, but he never got that far. Worried that Haigh had struck a little too close to home with the murder of Duran Deacon, he approached her good friend, Miss Constance Lane, and began questioning her as to Miss Duran Deacon's whereabouts and if she had fallen ill. Lane was shocked and responded, "Don't you know where she is? I understood from her that you wanted to take her to your factory." Haigh responded that he had not taken the widow to the workshop as he was not ready to show her his operation. "Well, I must do something about that," Lane responded. The following morning, Haigh again asked if Lane had seen or heard anything about Duran Deacon, and she simply said that she had not, adding that she intended to report the matter to the police that day. In an attempt to avoid suspicion, Haigh offered to go with her to the Chelsea police station to file the report. However, when Lane and Haigh arrived at the police station, an officer recognized Haigh immediately and had his background checked. The already lengthy criminal record made police very suspicious of Haigh, and he was brought in for questioning on February 28th of 1949. He denied having anything to do with Duran Deacon's disappearance. However, police kept him in custody while his hotel room and workshop were searched. Police uncovered enough gruesome remains of Duran Deacon to make a positive identification. Although most of her body had been reduced to a hardened sludge that coated the backyard of the small residence. Additionally, forensic investigators unearthed 28 pounds of human fat, 18 fragments of bone, and the partially corroded bones of a human foot. They also recovered Duran Deacon's plastic handbag, which had resisted the acid, a plastic lipstick container, and upper set of dentures, and 3 human gallstones. So yeah, the gallstones survived the sulfuric acid.
Good to know. Oh, her poor gallbladder.
Haigh asked the detective, Albert Webb, during questioning what his chances of being released from the psychiatric hospital were like, to which Webb stated that he could not discuss that sort of thing, and Haigh replied, "Well, if I told you the truth, you would not believe me. It sounds too fantastic to believe." And I'm just like, I would not use the word fantastic, sir. Yuck. On July 18th of 1949, Justice Humphreys presided over the trial of John George Haigh. An estimated 4,000 people crowded the small town of Louise in hopes of getting a seat in the courtroom. A few people attempted to sell their seats as a result, but officers guarding the courtroom put that to a stop immediately. It took the jury only 15 minutes to come to a consensus. Haigh was guilty. When the judge asked if Haigh had anything to say for himself, he cocked his head and said, "Nothing at all." The judge donned a black cap and sentenced Haigh to die, to which the sheriff's chaplain said, "Amen." Haigh was further examined by a psychiatrist outside of his preliminary examination leading to the trial, all of which came to the conclusion that Haigh had been sane and well aware of his actions. There was only one who found him to have a paranoid-based mental condition that failed for him to distinguish right and wrong, was a psychiatrist who later testified as an expert witness at his trial. However, the more interesting thing is that he had little to no interest in sex, which is super strange for a male serial killer. Like, this was all for financial gain.
That's wild.
It is wild because, honest to God, most male serial killers are in it for the sexual gratification.
Oh, God.
Prior to his execution, and I'm terribly sorry because I know my mom's probably going to come back through and listen to this, and you corrected me the first time, and I went back and I looked for a pronunciation, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it wrong anyway. But Madame Tussauds requested a fitting for a death mask with Haigh, which he was happy to provide. In early August of 1949, at Wadsworth Prison, Haigh was executed. He bequeathed his clothing to Madame Tussauds' Chamber of Horrors, where a wax figure of him was erected. So, there's other possible crimes and claims that were put out. So, following the murder of William McSwan, Haigh claimed that he murdered a woman in the same manner, but doesn't remember her name. He also claimed that he murdered and disposed of a young man named Max from Kensington. Haigh claimed that he killed another girl named Mary from Eastbourne, but it was never proven, and it's not even certain if she even existed. In June of 1948, Haigh claimed that he had stolen a car, and it was later found smashed at a foot of a cliff. Less than a month later, the body of an unidentified female was found nearby. Police decided that the incidences were unrelated to each other, but Haigh insists later upon his arrest in lengthy confessions of other murders that he had nothing to do with the girl's body. However, he did show the wreck to Barbara Steffens, and it aroused her suspicion when he told her to not mention it to anyone. Other people had heard him say that he was tired of the car and wished someone would steal it. Regardless, the car was well insured, and he used the money to purchase a new car. So it was basically just another insurance scam. In other interesting notes that I found, Aleister Crowley, the black magician known as the Great Beast, was also brought up by wealthy parents who belonged to the sect similar to Haigh's, and he spent his adult life debilitatingly breaking social rules and seeking pleasures. And another interesting note is that Haigh's school actually produced another serial killer, but at a much later date. One Stephen Griffins, who was known as the Crossbow Cannibal, and we will get to him eventually. Just not today.
Okay,
And not next
so
time.
this school is creating
Monsters?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like little hints of cannibalism from this guy, and then maybe a lot from the next.
Maybe a lot from the next. I mean, I went and looked it up,
Mhm.
and I was like, what the actual fuck? But
A
there's,
crossbow cannibal.
yeah. There's, according to the Wikipedia page, 3 murders regarding him. And I'm just like, okay, this is why this is why we don't fuck around with people's religious sects. What the hell?
Oh god. Especially when it's so repressive that you can't like develop into who you kind of might be, you
Mhm.
know? When you have to become a pathological liar and present yourself a certain way just to survive.
Oh, absolutely.
Makes
Like,
you
there's
makes certain people a psycho.
Yeah, there's nothing against like Christian religion or anything here. Absolutely not. But there is definitely like there's always extremes with any group that you go to. There's always going to be someone that takes it way too fucking far. And honest to God, like I think it's very important for children to be privy to what's going on in the world. Obviously, like not throw them all the way in and be like, watch this true crime show. No, we're not going to do that. But
Time for a
understanding
podcast.
time for a podcast, my sweet bean. Um, but letting them understand that there are other things out in the world outside of what we just learn in a religious based practice. But I also think it's very important not to just like full on push people into religion, but let them find it themselves.
Rumspringa.
Rumspringa!
Rumspringa. Every religion needs their own Rumspringa. Go out into the world and come back if you like us.
Come back if you like us. If you don't, well, that's too bad. We're going to miss you.
It's like, okay, I had my fun. Time to go back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with farming. It was too much.
It was too
Let's build
much.
a barn.
As I'm over here, I'm like, society was too much. Time to become a farmer.
Time to become a farmer. Literally, I think that's what we're programmed to do. You know, we haven't done it for like the last 200 years, but.
Well, I was talking to someone the other day. I'm like, I literally went, yeah, I can do Stardew Valley. We'll be fine.
I'm gonna try growing grapes this year. In real life, not in Stardew.
I'm like, really?
Every year in Stardew. But...
Every year in Stardew, but real life this time. Let me know how that goes, because I don't think we're going to do the growing season this year. I don't know. I'm hoping we'll be able to grow some stuff, but that is totally dependent on how far this building gets along, which I'm hoping, and please hope with me, that framing starts in like the next couple weeks or so. Because that's what we're hoping for. My dad's coming down. Like, my mom just left, and she's like, she called me. She's like, your father's heading down next week. I'm like, am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong?
Jail.
She's like, no, he just needs to get stuff done. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I keep killing strawberries, so I'm gonna switch to grapes. I've heard they do well in Colorado, so it's dry.
Well, strawberries always seem to fail in Colorado unless you are like constantly watering them, and then you also got to keep the crows off of them. And if you guys know me, I love my crows, but I also know that they will go after your plants like no tomorrow, especially strawberries. Like, they are freaking on those, like stink on shit. They think those things are crack.
Oh, they're so good.
Which they're not wrong.
Crack.
They are crack, especially fresh ground strawberries. I remember there was my neighbors had a strawberry bush, and every year when they started coming up, it was the two kids that lived over there, me, and we just sit in front of that strawberry bush and just go crazy eating them. They get so mad.
Like, we're trying to grow this big, and you're like, but they're so tasty.
They're so tasty. Just me and their two boys. I'm like.
Just like berries.
Berries. This is an interesting topic to talk about after people just got dissolved.
People were dissolved, but we're more interested in the fruit.
We're more interested in the fruit and the farming.
Rumspringa.
Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is always in the blood.